Hey friend, welcome. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jen. I'm a part-time online clothing reseller, which means I go to thrift stores, I buy used clothes, I list them on eBay and Poshmark, and hopefully sell them for a profit. Today is Tuesday. What's the date? It's October. I don't even have my calendar on the right page. It's October 7th. I have 3 items that sold yesterday. Not great, but it is what it is. 3 items, 3 L's. I've got LL Bean, I've got Levi's, I've got Ralph Lauren. I may have fudged a little on that one, but hey, I do these videos every day. I gotta come up with something creative sometimes. So the 3 L's here. This is a Ralph Lauren. This is, okay, I don't know, this is very strange. First of all, it is like a wool blend, and it's a button-up shirt, plaid, but then it has this like bow thing that you tie. So what I figured out was this is called like a secretary shirt or something along those lines. I don't know, maybe I missed the mark on this one. I thought that it was going to be worth a little more than what I sold it for, but it didn't sell fast, so I don't necessarily think that I made a huge mistake with it, but maybe I could have done a better job of figuring out what it's exactly called, maybe some better keywords for it. I had trouble comping it when I listed it, and so when that is the case of something I'm pretty sure is vintage, which I am with that, I just listed at $30, and that's what I did. Someone offered me 15. That's not even true. They offered me way lower than that, and we kind of went back and forth a little bit, and it ended up at 15. And right now I'm just trying to make some sales, you know? So I went ahead and accepted that, and it sold on Poshmark for 15. I've had it for 3 months, and this was one of the things I bought when I was on a work trip with my husband in New York over the summer. And I really couldn't even tell you what store I bought it at, but we were in Corning and Painted Post, if you're curious. And I bought it at one of those little stores for $2. And that makes my profit $10 on the shirt, which is, I mean, that's decent profit. I don't know, but there was something about it. I was like, oh, this is gonna be one of those weird things that's worth a lot. Especially in Ralph Lauren, like there is so much that can be worth a lot, and especially like vintage stuff. But all right, these are Levi's. They are cargo shorts, and they're ripstop, which has these little like squares in the material, and so if you get a snag or a tear or something, it stops the rip from going farther. I bought a couple of Levi's over the past few weeks because I see that they sell a lot, but I don't know. Levi's are hard for me. I'm trying to figure out what label to show you. That just looks like the patch on the inside. I don't know. Cargo shorts are one of those things when I am struggling to find something and can find them really cheap, I will buy them, especially like at the bins. This was not at the bins. This was at the Humane Society thrift. So we have a thrift store in town that benefits our Humane Society. I don't go there very often because it is not in a particular area of our town where I go very often, and it has like weird hours. So this does have like a spot on it. I listed it pretty low at $14, and then, so if you watch regularly, you know I was on a trip last week and I had all my stuff on like 30 and 40% off sales. And when I do that, I don't send out offers. I just wait and let them build up. And then when I got back and the sale was over, I sent out 30% off offers to all those watchers that had kind of built up over my trip while I was gone. And I think that, actually I know that this was something that sold from that offer because it sold for 30% off. I am currently just trying to find a bag to put it in. Trying to use reused poly mailers right now just to get rid of them. So yeah, Levi's, I don't know what I'm doing with Levi's. I need to experiment a little more. I need to do a little more research on it, but I think it's so funny because both of these brands, Ralph Lauren and Levi's, like I've been doing these, you know, brand overviews, and I'm gonna do one for LL Bean here in a minute. But both of those brands kind of just overwhelm me. Like the thought of doing an overview is kind of overwhelming. But I think that it's something that I need to do because I need to kind of dig into what sells well in those brands. Especially, I just find Levi's all the time, and knowing like what numbers are good, it would be good to know. All right, third L of reselling, LL Bean. This one is a sweater. Teal, has some cable knitting in it. I tell you what, I would have kept this if it was my size. That's LL Bean, tag there. This sold for $29.95. This was the full price. I usually have a 15% off offer, coupon on everything in my eBay store. And I don't think I told you all the rest of it. Sorry. Hold on. Back up. Rewind. The Levi's cargo shorts I had listed for $14. They sold for $9.77. With shipping, they paid $17.61. I paid $2 for them at the Humane Thrift. I know, but no, you may not have that. I had those for 18 months and my profit is $603. So was that worth it? Probably not. You may not have that.
Why not?
Because it's for Ellie. I don't know. Sorry, kiddo. All right, so this sweater. So
you said a name.
Yeah, I know, but she's been on here before with her name, so it's okay. She is okay with it. All right.
I have a name on it?
Nope.
Please.
Sorry.
My name is nothing.
No. Okay. Let me finish. All right. So, we'll get there. The LL Bean sweater sold for $29.95. Oh, that's what I was telling you. I have a coupon on my eBay store all the time, but I took it off for when I had to sale because you can stack the sale price with a coupon, and I didn't want to do that because I felt like 40% was already a pretty good discount, and I never put it back on yet. I have just forgot to put it back on, so I need to do that. So they bought it full price, which is pretty incredible. With shipping, they paid $37.68. I've had this for 5 months. I bought it at the bins, the Goodwill outlet, where you pay by the pound. And my average cost of goods was $2 at the bins. And that makes my profit $23.76. So my total, no, not 67, 76. So my total profit for the day is what? $30, $40?
Wow, that's not too bad.
Well, it's not bad because, you know, $40 is $40. I'll take it.
Made like 3,000.
I could have made $3,000, and yet I did not.
That's because people don't buy stuff.
Well, it's been rough for a few months in a row here. I thought it was going to get bitter, but it's not, it doesn't seem to be getting better. So, all right, we're going to talk about LL Bean for a minute. You good with that? So I recorded all of this without actually hitting record. It's now later in the day. I'm only telling you that just because it explains why everything's different, lighting, whatever. Okay, I wanted to ask, do you have any other L's of reselling? So 2 that I thought of was Lululemon and Land's End. I was trying to think, I don't know if I have any others, but let me know in the comments if you have some, like, maybe not musts, but some bread and butter brands, or I don't know. Oh, Lane Bryant. That's another one for me. Lots of L's in reselling. All right, so let's talk about LL Bean. LL Bean began with the Maine hunting shoe in 1911. It was founded by Leon Wood Bean. Leon Wood Bean. Okay. So it is considered an American heritage brand, which I think there's an aesthetic with heritage brands right now, and I don't know what it's called. Maybe heritage core? That can't be it. I don't know. But definitely has kind of some, preppy looks to it. I'm trying to remember. I saw a video on it recently, and I don't remember the specifics, but heritage brands were definitely a big part of that, and LL Bean would fall into that. It's over 100 years old. It's an American kind of company. It is family owned, privately owned. Currently, the chairman is Sean Gorman, and he is Leon Wood Bean's great-grandson. So he's been the chairman since 2013. They're most popular for the bean boots, which I think are maybe they're not the Maine hunting boots, but bean boots, and then something called the boat and tote bags that were created in 1944. LL Bean began with the Maine hunting shoe. Like I said, it boomed during the Depression and then has expanded even to Japan in like the 1990s. I'm not entirely sure where they are worldwide, but they are definitely at least in Japan. LL Bean is dedicated to helping people embrace and enjoy the outdoors, promoting time in nature for its restorative power. Their competition is like the North Face, Columbia, Patagonia. It's along those lines of like an outdoorsy brand. So I was curious about their ethics, and apparently there's a website called Good On You, which rates companies, and LL Bean was rated not good enough in 2024. Specifically, it had to do with like labor practices in their factories overseas. And that's really frustrating to me, I think, because, LL Bean's known for just really good quality clothing. And so they put the time and the effort behind that, but then to not put the time and the effort and the money behind being an ethical company, I don't know. For me, that's just a little like, oh, that's a little frustrating. All right. So when I look up, when I look up LL Bean on eBay, the average cost of good just across the board is $28.58 with a 15.86% sell-through rate. I filtered those solds from highest to lowest. The highest item ever that sold, well, not ever, in the last 90 days, that sold on eBay was a watch that was a collaboration with a watch company called Hamilton, and it sold for $1,275, which is amazing. There's also something called a boatkin bag that sold for $1,000. I looked up specifically the boatkin bag, and there were 2 that sold. The one that sold for $1,000, and then one sold for $50, and nothing else. So I'm not really sure. It looks like it's maybe an upcycled thing with the boat and tote bags. It was unclear. I looked a little bit, but yeah, anyway. The boat and tote bags, there are a few. One that sold really, really high. The highest sold for $961. And then there was an axe that sold for $911. And I mean like an axe. Yeah, pretty cool. When I looked up the boat and tote bags, the average sale price for those was $87.77 with a 35% sell-through rate, which, considering most of these sell-through rates are under 15-16%. Yeah, that's amazing. That's really good. All right, so then I looked up women's, because mostly, you know, I sell women's clothes. They do sell like, you know, bedding and home goods and things like that. In fact, I sold a quilt for about $50. But I just looked up the clothing because that's most of what I sell. So the women's average sale price is $24.66 with a 14% sell-through rate. When I filter highest to lowest solds, the highest is a barn coat that sold for $210. There was another one that sold for $207. The majority of the first page of sold were those barn coats, the chore coats. So I sold one last week, not LL Bean, but just a chore coat. It's a very rectangular looking coat. It's very just boxy, and then has like patch pockets, and then a usually corduroy kind of a contrast color on the collar. And so I looked up chore coat specifically in women's. The average sale price was $54.39 with a 44% sell-through rate. That is like sweet. I did sell a chore coat within the last 2 years. I didn't look at when exact. I think it was last winter. It sold in a week for $59, so pretty good. Women's sweaters have an average sale price of $23.87 with a 16% sell-through rate. Women's pants have an average sale price of $18.22 with a 15% sell-through rate. I did look up the Maine hunting shoes because I just thought, oh, maybe that is, you know, something that's desirable. The average sale price is $40.02 with a 12% sell-through rate. So I'm not sure how many of those are still around, or if that's even something that they currently make, or only if they're only vintage. Maybe I should have looked that up. Again, not a deep dive here, just a little overview. And sometimes I don't think about things until I'm chatting with you about it. I'm like, oh, I should have looked that up. Anyway, I also didn't look up the bean boots, although I think that would be really hard to look up. I wonder, I've experimented with putting like quotation marks around words that I want together, and it just didn't work very well for me, but maybe I could try that. All right, so in menswear, the average sale price just overall is $27.96 with a 15% sell-through rate. The highest solds were watches, tote bags, and coats again. There was also a couple sweaters. Specifically, there's a collab with Todd Snyder that has like a duck scene on the sweater. There were a few that sold for around $400. When I went to do comps on it, then nothing on that specific sweater, nothing showed up. So I don't know if I spelled something wrong or what, I don't know. That was weird. Anyway, sweaters overall in men's have an average sale price of $28.82 with a 17% sell-through rate. Coats are $52.89 with a 6% sell-through rate. I was curious about the chore coat, barn coats. I added chore to the coat search, and that bumped up the average sale price to $60.11 and 26% sell-through rate. Much better. And then men's pants have an average sale price of $20.94 with a 10% sell-through rate. Over the past 2 years, I've listed 46 LL Bean items and sold 33 of them. That's a 72% sell-through rate. The top 3 items that I sold were that quilt, like I said, sold for $50 in about 3 months. The chore coat took a week to sell at $59. And then I also sold a vintage trench coat for $59, and that one took 2 months to sell. So I think I said everything that's on my list here. I'm curious, what is your experience with LL Bean? Is that something that you find that you like to wear, that you like to sell? I pretty much, if I find it, I grab it, unless it's something like really, really basic. I usually do. So, and you know, even I've just sold basic button-ups, you know, for like $20. So as long as the price is right, that's something that I am gonna kind of keep in my wheelhouse of like bread and butter. And of course there's some really good, you know, kind of bolos If you've not heard those terms before, I'm sorry. Shouldn't be spitting those out at the end of a video here. Bread and butter for me just means like about $15 in profit. It sells within like about a year. BOLO stands for be on the lookout. So something that's going to sell faster or for more money. So that's at least how I define those. And I think that's pretty common. I think bread and butter is different for everybody, what their definition of it for themselves is, but bread and butter is usually, you know, like kind of like basic stuff that consistently sells. So, and that's different for everyone. So anyway, I think that's it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to me talk about LL Bean. I appreciate it. Make sure you like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you soon.